The resolution back off the consent agenda.
You want to do that now? Or wait till we get down to the consent agenda?
Get to it.
Okay. Okay, so Sandra, make it much, maybe Sandra first. Second. Thank you, James. James second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Any announcements? No? Okay. Jim, we don't have any public, nobody signed up for public comment. Anybody have any public comment in here that didn't sign up? Here none, okay. On the consent agenda, now Sandra.
I'd like to pull the resolution 2201 off the consent agenda and put it on the regular agenda.
You want to put it down at H?
Yes.
Okay. Will you make that in the form of a motion for me, please?
I'll make a motion that we pull the resolution 2022-01 off the consent agenda and put it as item H on the regular agenda.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. So you caught up?
Yeah, but we have to approve the amended consent agenda.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
I make a motion we approve the amended consent agenda.
Thank you, James.
I'll
Second,
second it.
second, Sandra, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. North Carolina Department of Transportation, Tyler Rogers.
Tyler wasn't able to be here. I'm Rusty Darnell, the assistant superintendent there. I'll be taking care of it. Okay, this will cover some of the existing and upcoming projects that we have. The topics that we'll be covering will be construction projects, the projects that are currently in development, safety projects, and potential economic development projects.
It's back here, Rusty. Technical trouble.
And then it goes forward.
I can advance it for you.
Okay.
We'll go on to the page of the construction projects. Okay, currently, we have the I-4400 DD and 4400C Sky 26 project, just the Henderson County project. It's right at 50% done and on schedule. Been out there lately, you know, they're moving a lot of stuff. HA 0003 Commercial Boulevard, that's out off Upper Road near I-26. It's almost halfway done and it is currently under schedule. The Green River Bridge modernization, I don't know if y'all are aware of that one, but they're taking the two bridges, building a new bridge in between them and making one big bridge with shoulders and maneuverability. Then the Highland Lake Road project, the contractor has not started construction yet. They are almost done with the utility relocations, and they're expecting to start probably next month or the 1st of May. The next page with projects under development. The R2588B, the 191 project from Mountain Road to 280, right-of-way acquisition is underway and is currently scheduled to let in July of next year. The US 64 project through Laurel Park with the roundabouts, right-of-way acquisition is underway on it and is scheduled to let in May of 24. The White Street, Main Street, and 225 project that going to attempt to clean up the south end of town. Right-of-way acquisition scheduled for December of this year with a lead date in October of 25. 25 in North Main, that's going to be the right turn lane off the North Main and the left turn into the renovated high school. Right-of-way starts in May, and it's set to let October of this year, with the bulk of that construction being next year. They are going to do a signal upgrade to make the driveway out of the high school full functional this summer before school starts in the fall. The multi-use path along 280, 191, they had to do a new feasibility study to update the estimate. That study is almost complete, and we should have that estimate sometime in the next several weeks. On the upcoming safety projects, they're installing a signal on Fanning Bridge at Rutledge. It's right there in the curve where you got that funny angle coming in. And that one is supposed to let in May. Turnpike Road, there's about 700 feet near Brandon Road that they're going to adjust on the super elevations and readjust the guardrail. That's going to be done as part of our contract resurfacing project that is currently being led. For pending economic development projects, we've got a request for economic development funds for Westfeld to be upgraded to industrial standards. That one, we're looking at 12-foot lanes with 2-foot paved shoulder and a 4 to 6 foot grass shoulder for that. And Ferncliff Extension, that's the new road that was built between Linamar and the current construction site. We're not planning on paving that one and opening it up for use until such time as the utilities go in. We've also got, right now, we've got 2 active resurfacing contracts in the county. We've got a pavement preservation contract that's active. I've heard traffic is going to have a new striping contractor out in the spring. I think that covers the bulk of what's going on. If y'all got any questions for us?
So something, hey, Russ. So something I always ask about when I see one of you guys is the Turnpike Road Bridge across Wilson Creek out there. Is that bridge ever gonna be
That
better
one,
than what it
I get that request about 4 times a year. And as of 2 weeks ago, when I talked to the Vision Bridge program, he did not have it currently on his radar as far as a replacement, as far as being scheduled. We did talk about moving it up the list and trying to get some right of way acquisition so that the new one could be built at a new location to ease up on that curve.
It would be nice, you know, the 2 deaths in the last, what, 3 or 4 years. And sign's been taken off of it numerous times. I know the guardrail might help some, but
Well, with what we had available, the guardrail was the best we could do because that wooden rail on that bridge, there was no way to attach it to the bridge itself.
Anybody got anything else for the?
Question. Have y'all looked at the water running down old 191 coming from Asheville onto 280? Where it rains and the water all runs out in the road. And when you drive down through there, water, if another car's coming, it'll actually go over your car and you can't see.
I personally have not received that complaint, but what I will do is I will contact our maintenance folks and have them go out there and check it out and see what they.
Okay. Thank you.
I got one quick question. What does LAT stand for?
As when it actually goes to contract, that would be when it's awarded.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, one, I wanted to echo Sandra's sentiment about the surface water that we used to have yesterday. 4 or 6 inches across the road, taking out Gilly Church Road and for intersection of Highway 280. For that machine shop. So, my other question was the widening of 191 out front here, from here to Mountain Road. It said lit in 2023 July. What's the construction on that? Estimated to be?
The last I saw, they were looking at about 3 years.
Anybody, anything else? Thank you. Appreciate your books. All right, moving on to Harrisville Water and Sewer, Mr. Lee Smith. Adam?
Good evening. Adam Sir, I'm the utilities engineer with the city of Harrisonville. Lee Smith is with us as our utilities director. I'm also a native of Mills River, for what that's worth. And I guess we have some new council members, so I'll give a little update or I guess a background on our department. So we serve water, about 70,000 people in Henderson County and in addition to Mills River. About 680 miles of water main. And on the sewer side, we serve about 10,000 customers, about 20,000 people, and we have about 180 miles of sewer main. We have 2 treatment plants, treatment plant in Mills River on the water side, that's permitted for 12 million gallons per day. And on the wastewater side, we have a treatment plant off Balfour Road, which is permitted for 4.8 million gallons per day. We do not serve wastewater, sewer in Mills River, just water. So next slide. So a couple of projects we have in the Mills River area. A lot of them are going to be treatment plant or source water related. We've got our North Fork Reservoir dredging project, which is that reservoir is in Pisgah National Forest. We've got a new water intake that's going to be going to construction soon, just right behind us on Hooper Lane. And we're working on a planning document at our water treatment facility. So the North Fork Reservoir, this reservoir was constructed in the 1920s. This was one of the original water sources for Hendersonville. We pull about 2.5 to 3 million gallons of source water from this source per day. And it is, this picture doesn't show it, but if anyone's been up there recently, you can see that a lot of sediment is accumulating behind the reservoir, which is impacting us pulling water from that source. Next slide. So the dredging budget for that is about $800,000. We're in the permitting stages right now. There's a lot of, it's on Forest Service land, so there's Forest Service, there's Army Corps Engineer, there's U.S. Fish and Wildlife that we've actually worked through most of those. And we plan to begin the actual dredging work early 2023, so February 2023. It'll probably wrap up in August of 2020. And our next steps is bidding or letting the project, and then we'll also be doing a series of public notification just to let the recreation folks know that we'll be up there next year. Our French Broad River raw water intake and pump station. So this is going to be our 4th source of water, and it's located on the French Broad. I don't know if you can see it too on that map, but it's off of Hooper Lane, kind of behind the sod fields, super sod on the river. Next slide. There's some architectural renderings of the pump station. There'll be on the right, you'll see a channel side intake structure. That'll receive the surface water, and there'll be mechanical screens and rakes to keep debris from accumulating. And then the structure on the left will sit right next to the intake, and that's a pumping station that will convey the raw water to our treatment facility on Highway 191. Next slide. So like I mentioned earlier, this is our 4th source. Really, it's in drought conditions. Historically, we were a little limited on our sources on smaller streams. The French Broad is a much larger river, more resilient source. It's been during drought conditions. Also with this intake, we'll have the ability to go to 15 million gallons per day with the pumps, and the concrete in the structure has also been sized to eventually go to 21 million gallons per day. So when we build these things, we build them for 40, 50, 60 years, build them to last. It's about 1,000 feet downstream of Mills River. Like I mentioned earlier, it goes to 21. There'll also be a standby power generator, and obviously it's probably underwater now and down here, but the structure is elevated above the 100-year floodplain. So every time it floods, all of our equipment will not be impacted. Next slide. So this is a big project for us. It's altogether $23.5 million for the construction and all the engineering and administrative fees. It's funded through a North Carolina Division of Environmental Quality state revolving fund. So it's a low interest 20-year loan that we were awarded for the project. We actually just had our pre-construction meeting for this project this morning. And so the contractor will be out there very soon. And this project has about a 2-year construction duration before it's complete. The last project we have, it's not so much a project where there's a study, but our water plant, we're looking at pulling together a master planning document that'll, it's an asset inventory assessment of the equipment, looking at useful life of pumps, motors, structures. But it also looks at our current demands and our future projected demands and when we need to time our expansions and any other potential regulatory changes that may affect the plan. So really we look out to 2040, 2050, and we like to plan our capital improvement projects out 20, 30 years. So, right now we're applying, there's some grant funding to do studies like this. So we're applying for that grant funding. The estimated cost for this study is about $400,000. And then, once we hopefully receive the grant, we'll be able to begin those efforts. It'll probably take about a year to go through this study. This is all I have for the public projects. So I'll open it up to any questions you guys may have about water service.
Are you gonna have to secure easements to bring raw water from your new intake on French Park?
So that raw water line is actually in the ground. That line was, I think it's a 30-inch water line. It was actually installed, I want to say about 10 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago. We installed that at the time for the event of a drought that we could throw like a portable pump in the river and receive water that way. But at the time, yes, we did acquire easements for that raw water transmission.
I didn't realize that line was there. But
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? No? Thank you.
All right, great. Yeah, y'all are welcome.
Good to see you in Lebo.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to C, Park Field and Recreation Advisory Committee Budget Vision.
Good evening.
Howard.
My name is Tristan Cowie, representing the Parks and Trails and Recreation Committee. And I just want to take a second to kind of talk about who we are, our successes and products that we've done and stuff that we've had to it. So I'm joined by many of my colleagues here. And we just want to come out and show our support. So we're a mix of people. We're families, retirees, employees, users of the park. Some were born and raised here, some have settled. We want all types of users to enjoy the parks and to use them. Get out there and do that. Kind of the first success is the master plan. This is, you guys should have had a copy of this. This is worth a read. This is the public's input. There were over 500 survey responses that were out. Over 70% of those were from people that live here in town. So this is not people just, there were some results from passersby, but the majority of the people live here in town and use these parks every day, every week. This is kind of the roadmap. This is where we want to go. This is our vision going forward. So this is kind of what we use to lead a lot of our decisions. Within that master plan is the Banner Farm property just down the road. That was earmarked as a creation for a new park, including a future home of Farmers Market, bike and hiking trails, outdoor classroom, open space, children's gardens, and possible fitness stations. With agribusiness being an important part of this area's identity development, we wanted to really kind of focus on that, localness, that farmers market. see, part of that was a North Carolina Parks Trust approved $23.1 million for 2022 projects. There are appropriation dollars to receive, and as Mills River, we need the town council to look at this process so we can get on track for a share of these monies that will help the Banner Farm project. Another one of our projects is the riverbank restoration. It's going on right now. Hopefully completion next week. And they'll have the path open and be able to enjoy that. We prioritize that part of the project. One, because the riverbank was falling away, and also it was a big draw for a lot of the visitors. We have over 9,000 users this spring of the park. And then we're also looking at some extensions to that plan, kind of adding a path across the green space there. So water tubers can put in and kind of do the quick ride around and jump out. So those are our big projects that we and successes that we kind of focus on over the past year or so. The stuff going forward, what we really need help with is a lot of commitment from council. We've got a nice roadmap and a nice kind of strategy and plan of where we want to go, but we need a lot of support from town council, because without that, it's hard to apply for grants, because it's kind of like those grant writers. So how serious are you? Sort of thing. So we're asking for a lot of support from you guys. This is a very important kind of part of the town, and we want to focus on that. A lot of the grant projects, it's a 6 to 12 month process. So sooner than later on a lot of this stuff. There's money to be had out there that will kind of help match a lot of the expense, but the sooner we can get started on that, the better. Programming. One of the highest response rates out of this survey was the need for a programmer, and just increasing the number of programs that Public offers. The top priorities were youth sports, community events, and fitness and wellness programs. 95.6% of the surveys were in favor of increasing the number of programs the park offered. Currently, we have implemented soccer, tennis, and pickleball, among some other programs. Soccer program had 80 signups in the first few days. The previous council had a place in the budget for a full-time programmer, someone who could target more growth and more involvement from the community. After approving the budget, the council decided to reappropriate those funds elsewhere. We were disappointed because we felt a strong plan for growing this community was ignored. Often the public's first experience with government is a bad experience. Your house is on fire, call the fire department, maybe are getting a ticket from the police officer. Park and Rec is 100% a positive experience. So we really want to kind of focus on that, put a lot of time and energy into that. And we want to build our community. Yeah, there's other programs in this county. There's other programs in this area, but we really want to build the community here in our town. And so that's something very important for us. Banner Farm and the farmers market. As previously mentioned, we want to kind of help push that door open with that Banner Farm property. And I think having the farmers market have some sort of permanent location would be a really good step in the right direction for that project. And then I believe later we're going to talk about the picnic shelter and the restroom facility. Just to give you a quick rundown on numbers, we're looking at building a new picnic shelter and restroom facility on the north side of the park. Just to cover the increased demand. With the current shelter, we had 62 rentals in 2016 and 128 rentals in 2020, not counting the number that were turned away. And it's just, we really like that, the idea of having a shelter, a restroom facility. And the softball team doesn't have to cross the street to use the restroom. Seniors walking in the outer loop don't have to go as far to have facilities. And finally, improve communication between our advisory board and the council. This is an open invitation. If, anytime you want to stop by one of our meetings, we'd love to have you. And I don't necessarily have a answer, but we just want to increase that flow of communication between the two groups. So that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Anybody got any questions?
Question, are these pictures current? On here?
Yes, yes, as of last week.
Yeah, it was probably last week. Actually, it was before, it's probably 2 weeks ago, before that goes. But yeah, that is the curve. That is the new curve in the river, that first bend. That's what it currently looks like.
Well, those look really good. Did the heavy rains we had last night have any effect down there?
The river's still really high. We were this close to spilling the banks yesterday, but it didn't make it over. So once the river drops, we'll have a really good idea of, that heavy river flow and how everything held up. But no obvious damage as of today. And so once the river drops, we'll definitely have, we got a good test yesterday of high water flow. So
Well, I look forward to getting down there to see them.
Do you have an idea, like Fletcher Park, do they just have one programmer, do we know?
they do. Yeah, they have a director, one program, and then some other folks.
And then like Henderson Field, Jackson Park, that bunch, they got 1, 2.
The city of Hendersonville does not do active recreation because everything Henderson County does is in the city of Hendersonville, the city of Jackson Park. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know they have, I would bet they have at least 5 or 6 programmers that do athletics and that sort of thing.
Part grant, is that a 50/50 match?
It is, yes.
And what's the maximum a municipality can,
$500,000.
even on an existing facility like ours?
Yeah, the max for any project is $500,000. They definitely, you score higher if it's adds a new amenity or a new park, new feature. There's a very complicated scoring rubric, so yeah, so it just depends on how things, how your project scores.
Is that still the best funding opportunity for the town to pursue grant funds, or are there others of equal value?
There, I would say it's the highest dollar amount. Now, this past cycle and the next cycle, the state has increased the amount of funding. That's been one of those where $500,000 is a very large, pretty large chunk of money. But they can only do, a lot of people apply for it, so it's very competitive. Last cycle and this upcoming cycle, the state has increased that funding. So that's gonna, the $500,000 is the same. So it's gonna give people a better opportunity. There are other opportunities out there. The Dogwood Trust Foundation right here, based in Western North Carolina, I think is a big one that we can start making connections with. If you want one time, I have a folder this big of different opportunities. Some are big, some are small. But there's money out there.
And most of them require a match.
Most of them require matches.
Nicole, can you put in perspective, do you remember how much the part of money was out there last year statewide, the big number? I know it used to be like 13 million or something.
Yeah, it was like, I want to say it was like 46 million last year. It's not quite as high in this upcoming cycle, but still substantially higher. Our hope is that lots of people out there say, yes, we support parks, and then when they do the next 2-year budget cycle, they'll continue with the higher level of funding. But it was written as a temporary funding increase.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. We'll move on with our bid responses for our shelter and restroom building.
So, Mr. Mayor, this item is before you this evening as the next step in the process for the next capital project the town has been working on. Last fall, the council set up a project fund for the picnic shelter for $500,000. The project was bid earlier this year. We had 2 bids come in, so we advertised at the same 2 bids come in. And our low bid is in the $466,000 range. And we are here this evening to seek your approval to move forward with that. Nicole, would you fill in with the specifics, please, of where we are, and how to get to the end of this, please?
Sure, I guess just a little quick recap. So this project, an additional picnic shelter was in the original 2009 master plan for this park. In 2016, the town applied for a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant. And through that process, they faced one of the priorities of those projects was the basketball court and the picnic shelter. Unfortunately, we did not receive funding through that grant cycle, but so the basketball court was built. But the original design and thoughts for this picnic shelter came about in the public input during that session. And one of the big changes from the original master plan was that addition of a restroom. Originally, the master plan just had it for additional shelter space, but public feedback in that 2016-17 public comments was that an additional restroom was needed. When we redid our master plan again last year in 2021, again, it was very much highlighted that we need additional picnic shelter space and additional restroom space in the building. So just to give you a brief overview, the picnic shelter design is a combination shelter, picnic shelter and restroom facility that will be on the north end of the park, located near the basketball court and baseball field. This facility will provide an additional shelter for smaller gatherings, as well as a kosher restroom access for users and backwalking trail, the baseball field. With that, I think Tristan hit a lot of my points, so I was going to make you all about the need for this facility. But overall, so this project was approved as part of the 2021-2025 capital improvement plan with an estimated cost of $500,000. Our low bid was $464,210, which is Providence Construction Group. And we expect the total cost of the project to be $499,560. That includes some of the expenses we've already done for engineering work and architecture work. And so with that, we're just asking you all to consider this contract. I know the architects and the construction folks with Providence are here, so if you have any questions for them, and we're excited to take any questions about the project.
I've got one question you might be able to answer. The bathroom, the sewer will gravity back to our pump station?
Yes.
Okay.
I have some questions. So y'all have budgeted for this, so you've already got the money set aside for this?
Yes, yeah, it was set aside in the last budget cycle for capital improvement, so it was approved in the last year's budget cycle.
Okay, and how is this gonna affect the parks budget? Is there still money left over for day-to-day expenses?
Yes, it won't have a, little things like toilet paper, we might have to have a small increase on, extra toilet paper and soap, but overall, it's not gonna affect very much the day-to-day operating budget of this facility.
And is this a turnkey job? It includes fixtures, everything you need in there. I mean, once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, so this is, light fixtures, sinks, toilets, all that kind of stuff is included. The only thing that I think was discussed with our previous council that we have planned for the future is if solar panels would want to be added. So we have designed and planned the facility to meet those requirements or to have requirements if that is something this council decides to do in the future. But that is not part of this project, the solar panels.
And I think that covers my questions. Thank you.
Any more discussion, questions?
Potential finish time?
We gave it for the bid documents, we gave them till December 1st, which I know seems like a long time. But we know there's a lot of supply issues right now, and we just wanted to make sure we got a competitive enough bid that we didn't want someone to overbid because we didn't give them enough time to finish the project, knowing there's going to be supply issues. So we have a completion date no later than December 1st.
You said we're at 499 on the projected 500,000 contingency. We're gonna seek additional funds for contingency since we completed this all earmarked for project.
Yeah, so in the recommendation, I did request that we do a 7% contingency. So if that's agreeable to you all, that way, if there is an unexpected expense that comes up that we may not know about, we can continue moving forward on the project without having to come back to council to ask for a small amount of money. But we can do whatever number you're comfortable with, or we can take it change by change and bring it out to you. So that is completely up to you, but it is staff recommendation that we do a 7% contingency allowed for this project.
So that would be part of, or staff would like to see that as part of approval to, or authorize to move forward with this.
Ideally, yes. That way, if something does come up, we can immediately make that decision. You know, say for some reason they start digging and there's a big slab of granite under there that we weren't expecting. There'd be a, change order that now that rock has to get removed. So instead of having to stop work, come back to council and ask for that, say $1,500 to remove that slab, that staff can make that decision up to a certain amount of money. So as I said, I can do whatever number you all are comfortable with. What we can do wrong, we can bring each decision to you if it is.
7%, talking $35,000.
Yeah, I think 32,500, because we base that on the cost of construction, not the overall,
Not the other.
because those are set.
What do you have left?
What was that bid?
What was the other bid, Nicole?
It's $716,900.
I would be okay with putting the contingency money in this as long as it fits outside of the normal contract. Contract is what it is, we'll have to hold our feet to the fire on that, but if they run into obstacles along the way, outside of that contract, I don't see it's a problem to have there. We only meet twice a month, potentially in July, we might get a break. I think that hold them up a month on something I couldn't move forward with.
So an option that the board could consider is to approve the project as is with the current budget of $500,000. And then when we're not going to obviously spend much of this money in this current fiscal year, because by the time they actually start doing work, we'll be closing out the fiscal year. So we could wait until we get further into the actual construction and see if there's any change orders that might happen, or when we might be going over it, and then we would come back to amend the project budget. There's a couple of options before the board this evening.
What does staff like better?
I
Y'all
think-
be the one policing it on a day-to-day basis.
To keep it simple, I think we would prefer leaving the budget as is in the project budget ordinance at 500. And then when we get into the actual construction and start seeing invoices, we can evaluate whether or not we're going to need to come back to request additional funding at that point.
So you need a motion to that effect.
We need a motion to authorize myself to sign the appropriate contract documents, of course, with the attorney's approval. And then any and all other documents necessary to get the project kicked off. So you can help word that more eloquently than I, but that's the gist of it.
You did very well.
If everybody's okay with it, if somebody will give us the first and then we'll give a second. And then we'll go to the discussion at that point. If not,
I'll make a motion that we proceed with this as budgeted, as written here on the papers and proceed. And you need for the contingency in this
No, but if you would authorize
and authorize Daniel to sign.
to
the
sign any
contract.
and all documents associated with the contract with approval from the attorney.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second that.
Jeff second. All, any discussion on this at this point? Moving forward, all in favor?
Uh,
And the video with Sharon, what Sharon's time frame was.
No, Sharon, too.
Okay.
So on the agenda, the council has a closed session in front of them. Your attorney is not here yet. If you want, we could skip ahead to the text amendment and go through that. If that's the board's pleasure, and give her some time to get here.
Yeah, it's all right with the rest of the board, let's go forward. Moving on to G, text amendment TXT 2104 watershed administration. I guess Michael handle that?
Yeah.
Thank
Good evening, council. So soon after incorporating in 03, the town of Mills River signed an agreement with Henderson County to enforce stormwater and watershed protection regulations within town limits. And as of April of last year, the county is no longer providing that service to the town. And the town's been reviewing those permits locally with the help of a contracted stormwater engineer. The next step per state law is that we have to create our own watershed protection and stormwater programs, ordinances, et cetera, in order to legally continue permitting development in the protected watersheds in the town, which covers about half of our area within the town's jurisdiction. Again, we've reviewed plans for watershed and stormwater compliance. We've been informed by the state that basically we need to develop the local watershed program as soon as possible. Right now, we're operating off of the Henderson County ordinance. We don't plan to change any of the standards. But in order to be legally compliant, we really need to have our own ordinance in place to continue this function. Again, a local watershed program consists of an ordinance, which has minimum standards and has provisions for maintenance, inspection, and enforcement within the mapped watersheds of the town. We've been subject to state watershed and stormwater regulations since incorporation. The state has a model ordinance, which the town used as a starting point to draft our ordinance. And again, the majority of this is all minimum state standards that we're not planning to change. So staff's completed drafting the draft ordinance language, and we're ready to move forward with the text amendment process, bringing this to the planning board next for a recommendation. And then obviously it would come back to council for your review and approval. As I always say, we always look at the comprehensive plan and water supply, watershed protection, and stormwater management regulations are in alignment with objective 3.3 of our comprehensive plan. And then I was going to go through, you may have already gone through some of it, that was just the staff report. But I was just going to go through a brief presentation to highlight some of the actual regulations the state goes through. So again, we have 2 drinking water intakes in the, well, one in the town, the city of Hendersonville intake, and then one just outside of the town, the Asheville intake at the confluence of the French Broad and Mills River. And because of those, we have these protected watersheds. So again, the state requires local governments to adopt and administer these regulations, and we have to comply with state statutes and administrative code. There's not much flexibility in the regulations or in implementation. And again, the rules cover lot sizes, lot coverage, density, and also riparian buffer protection. Next slide. So again, as I've said, the regulations are overseen by the state, specifically the Environmental Management Commission and the Department of Environmental Quality. They're the ones that actually create the watershed classification system and designate the appropriate management strategies, which are all in the administrative code and the statutes. They're also the ones that review local ordinances to make sure they're compliant. So that's one thing we're doing now. We have the draft ordinance, and the next step is sending it to one of the heads, basically in Raleigh, of the program to review. We don't suspect anything will come up because it's based on their model ordinance language. Again, watershed boundaries are involved, classification system. The state also reviews major variances to any development approval that wants to vary from those stormwater and watershed standard practices. And the state can administer watershed programs if local jurisdictions fall into non-compliance. It's kind of a stain on a local government. You don't want that to happen, which is again why we're taking this on and preparing to do this ourselves. So again, what goes on with the local administrative functions of watershed management? So we have the ordinance with the standards that will be adopted as part of our code. Just like with zoning, me being the zoning administrator, with watershed ordinance, there'll have to be a watershed administrator because there's a separate set of regulations and things that need to be checked, both with development and even subdivision of property. You have to have a watershed review board. Usually it's the Board of Adjustment, but it's the same standards, and they review for appeals and variances already. And then a large part of the program, which will probably eat up the most of staff time, is continued compliance. So basically, there are maintenance and inspection agreements for any new development that has a stormwater control measure, like a wet pond or underground detention system, that it has to be inspected annually. There has to be an easement for the city to be able to inspect it. And in the ordinance, we have enforcement provisions that if it's not maintained or kept up properly, we can either clean it up ourselves or enforce civil penalties to ensure compliance. So what watersheds are in the town? So, and there's a map coming up which will clear this up, but we have the watershed 2 critical area, which is the most strict in terms of limitations. And then it goes to watershed 2 balance. And then we also have watershed 3 balance and watershed 4 protected area. Those are all concentrated in the center of the town, if you're looking at a map. And then at the far northern and southern ends, we have what's called phase 2 state reviewed areas. Because Henderson County is considered an urbanizing county by the state, basically it kicks in this extra set of stormwater regulations. Now the town's not responsible for reviewing those, but any development that has to get an erosion control plan because they're disturbing over an acre of land also has to submit a stormwater plan or demonstrate that they're exempt from phase 2 post-construction stormwater rules with the state DEQ office. So what's a critical area? It's really just the area within half mile of a drinking water intake. Obviously, if there's a spill or let's say a petroleum truck hits something and some pollutant gets in the water, the risk of contamination of the drinking water supply because it's so close is extremely high. So those critical areas have, like I was saying earlier, much stricter limitations on development in terms of impervious surface coverage, new stormwater runoff, et cetera. So there's a couple maps in your packet, but this is actually the one from the comprehensive plan that's the most clear. So you can see the boundary of Mills River outlined in the dark gray. If you look at the northern end and southern end that are the same gray color, those are the phase 2 state reviewed areas. And then that middle chunk is all of our watersheds. If you look right kind of in the middle of the map where it says WS2C, that's the critical area. You can kind of see the little semicircle. That's the half mile marker around the Hendersonville water intake. So that's one demonstration of that. And then as you go upstream from that, there's the WS2 designation. Downstream is the WS3. And then because of the Asheville intake, we have the WS4 area, which really extends the southern, towards the southern end of our jurisdiction. But that's the least strict. So one of the things that's regulated is density. With single family development regulations, there's a couple ways to do it. It's either on a dwelling unit per acre basis, a lot size basis, or an impervious surface coverage basis, which is the most common. That's what Henderson County, I believe, uses, and that's what we're reviewing on now. You can see obviously the different ones for the different areas. So like I said, watershed 2 critical, without any stormwater controls, you can only cover 6% of your lot area with a building, with a driveway, anything that creates any runoff and doesn't allow stormwater infiltration. However, look at the other end of the spectrum, the WS4 balance, you can go up to 24%. And again, there's options for even going above that with stormwater controls. Non-residential, again, because it could be a commercial development without dwelling units, that relies just on the impervious surface coverage percentage number. So again, you see the same numbers here, but just on a percentage basis. And then there's the high density option. So for all of these different watershed areas, you can increase the density. So you see the WS2 critical at the top, you can go from 6% to 24%. But once you pass that 6% threshold, you have to account for any additional stormwater runoff, and you actually have, I don't know the engineering formulas, but you have to detain a certain amount and actually treat it and treatment for suspended solids, sediment, stuff like that. That's where you'll see, open detention ponds or underground stormwater detention boxes or control measures in the development of that. And then again, going to the other end of the spectrum, you see the WS4 balanced watershed area where you can actually, previously it was just 24%, but you can actually develop up to 70% of the property, but again, with appropriate stormwater treatment. A couple other things. So sometimes there will be different tracts of land, some that are in the watershed, some that are not. So one thing we're going to allow is basically averaging the density requirements across parcels. So let's say I own 2 parcels, one's in the watershed, one's not. I would basically be allowed to develop above what the watershed normally allows by just averaging the density requirements across the 2. That's one thing that will be in ordinance. And then cluster development. A couple of the special development types in our zoning code, like the planned unit development, and we do have one called cluster development, is where you can go below our normal minimum lot size or above our normal density requirements by clustering housing or development in one area, but again, in exchange for land preservation on another part of a property. So again, this recognizes that the watershed regulations will allow that, even though one part of the property may be above the density or the thresholds for the watershed regulations. The goal is to look at the property as a whole. So as long as it's compliant within the whole parcel or the whole development, that would be allowed. So exclusions or exemptions, existing development. If you've got a property with a business on it, a house, this will not affect you. Commercial redevelopment, if no BUA built upon area, if no new impervious surfaces are proposed, again, this isn't triggered or not affected by these regulations. Single family redevelopment, the same thing. And then single family development on an existing non-conforming lot. So let's say you buy a piece of property that exists now, maybe existed before the town did, and we had our minimum lot sizes that we do now. Let's say it's only a 10,000 square foot lot. By right, you're allowed to build a house on that lot above the watershed thresholds because it's an existing non-conforming lot. Agriculture is completely exempt, except for vegetated setbacks from perennial streams. And then state transportation projects are exempt as well. So variances, we've seen a number of variances go before the Board of Adjustment just for our zoning regulations. Well, according to the state, we also have to allow that for watershed regulations. So again, you have to demonstrate hardship. You can't just apply for a variance because, and again, proving that it's within the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, and showing that there's still stormwater protection. So you can't seek a watershed variance and have poor stormwater runoff just because. The board can attach conditions to a variance, just like they do with zoning regulations. One thing to note is that minor variances would be approved by the Mills River Watershed Review Board, which again, we're proposing would be the Board of Adjustment. But a major variance above these thresholds of 10% for low density projects, so the first numbers you saw, or 5% change for the high density projects, those higher percentage numbers, anything above those thresholds would have to go before the State Natural Resources Commission. Because again, it's a big enough change that the state will need to look into that to see if it's warranted. So next steps, Henderson County already has this, and again, like I said, we're not planning to change the regulations. They allow the high density option. So like for the WS4 area, instead of just limiting it to 24%, going up to 70%, but again, with engineered stormwater controls. Right now, what we've done is created a watershed protection overlay district in the zoning ordinance, chapter 154. We're creating a whole new chapter of the town code, chapter 156, the natural resources ordinance, but then we'll have the actual nitty gritty nuts and bolts and the code, basically for watershed compliance, implementation, enforcement. And then the subdivision ordinance is also going to have some updates as well, because there are minimum lot size requirements in the watershed regulations. And there's additional requirements that, the watershed administrator will now need to sign off on subdivision plats, making sure, again, land's being subdivided per the watershed regulation. So those are all ordinances that have been drafted, are complete, and we're ready to move forward to the planning board in the text amendment process. I think I already touched on this. Basically, we took from the Henderson County Code of Ordinances, their watershed regulations, and then also the state model ordinance. Their model ordinance, I don't remember exactly, but it's the new one. It's been drafted in the last 2 years. And I can't remember, do you remember if it's been adopted by the state?
I don't think it has.
The state's going through the process of adopting this new draft model ordinance as the official model watershed ordinance for the state. But part of the recommendation of the head of the watershed program, that's the one we use to base a lot of our language off of. Easy enough, right? Any questions?
So I know it's early on, but how much of your time do you think you spend on this?
At least 15 to 20%. We have catch-up work to do. In this last year, we've been permitting development, and they've been compliant with the regulations, but without an ordinance and without true authority on the books, no watershed permits have been issued. We've been issuing zoning permits, and I've been issuing watershed letters of approval. But one of the big things we're going to need to catch up on is the inspection and maintenance agreements, and basically these annual inspections. So if you use like the Lowe's warehouse on Banner Farm Road, for example, because of the size of it and the pavement, them having that much impervious surface area, they have a wet pond down below there near the creek that in theory needs to have an easement dedicated to the city, needs to have an operation and maintenance agreement. And again, this is all based on model state language. It's not a whole lot we need to develop, but it's just more administration. And the state does audit programs. Now, us being a brand new program getting into this, I wouldn't expect we'd be audited in the next few years. But where I worked before, we were in the Falls Lake watershed, which is one of the most heavily regulated in the state, and we were about 2 years away from an audit. And I'll just say you need to have your records in order. So there's a little bit of catch-up work we need to do once this is in place. I think I need to get in touch with Natalie Berry, the county, to see if there's anything the county needs to transition over to us. Because again, they've been doing this for the town for so long. There may be stormwater easements that have been dedicated to them that may need to be switched over to us. So it's a little bit of an unknown, but it will be a draw on Saturday.
I'll just touch on, ask you a couple of questions.
Mhm.
So if the 15% of your time, are you talking about initially running the permits, 15% of the time to take up the stormwater, the watershed rules. Or is that maintenance going around looking?
That's everything, and that's just ballpark, yeah. That'd be everything. The permitting for me is actually not a heavy lift, because again, I'm not an engineer. So we have a contracted third-party stormwater engineer that does the actual reviews, and I basically act as the middleman. But yeah, it's getting the documents together and then administering the program long-term, which again is making sure all those other items are in place.
And do you have any idea why the county is wanting to step away from this?
I don't know. This was right around when I was hired with the town. The only thing I was made aware of is they were about to take enforcement action against a developer in the town for possibly violating some watershed regulations. And basically they found that the interlocal agreement with Mills River had expired. So they didn't have legal authority to even be enforcing watershed regulations. And when they were approached about whether they wanted to renew it or not, they declined to do so. So it's fallen to us.
And the reason that we being the town, has to do the watershed requirements that the state requires us to do, has to oversee this program is what?
The reason,
The reason.
because we have drinking water sources in the town. There are other provisions in watershed regulations for like high quality waters, trout waters. There's a whole bunch of different classifications. But what we're mainly reviewing tonight with the limitations on development is specifically about controlling new stormwater runoff and stormwater pollution to drinking water sources.
And since the town of Mills River does not have a water system, drinking water system, we are basically doing the legwork for the city of Hendersonville and Asheville with no compensation.
I won't comment on that, but it's a state requirement if you have a drinking water source in the town.
It's always been contracted with Henderson County before with that interlocal agreement. They just elected not to take it back on.
Correct.
Daniel, I've asked you about this in the past.
Mhm.
Have you reached out to the city of Hendersonville and the city of Asheville to see if they're willing to step up, since we are doing their watershed, looking out for their watershed? Are they willing to step up and help with the cost of this?
I have a meeting with Hendersonville scheduled for next week. I don't have anything on the books yet for the city of Asheville.
I think we need to pursue it.
I have a question. How long has Henderson County done the watershed contracts for out here?
I think it's since the town was incorporated, but I'll defer to Daniel since that was before my time.
I don't remember the exact contract date, but essentially, yes, when the town incorporated in 03, up until last year.
So with us taking it over, we're still gonna, everything that they had in place is coming forward. So stuff that was built new won't be grandfathered in. It's still going, held up to the same standards as it was with Henderson County.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, part of what Mike is describing is once we get this ordinance on the books, in conversations with Natalie Berry at the county, she'll transfer any applicable records that she has over to us so that we can then maintain those.
Anybody, anything else?
And again, this is just for council's information at this point. We'll be bringing back the text at a later date. We just want to bring you up to speed on the work we've been doing.
Any other questions? Oh. Okay. We just send that on the plan. So the attorney is here, so I would need a motion for us to go into a closed session pursuant to 143-3. our, public special use permit. SUP 22-01 Jeffrey Road Townhouses.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Randy. Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, when we left the other night, we asked for them to get us 3 different letters or some specific evidence. Remember, y'all are, whoever's giving this evidence was sworn in the other night, I would assume. And if anybody would want to contradict any of this evidence, they would have to come up and be sworn in to give evidence to reason why this wouldn't be true. Okay? So who wants to lead us off?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Hannah Michaelov. I'm an attorney from the law firm Allen Stone Kilborn. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Long Branch. I've got Brett Bassnight with me as well as his design team this evening. I also have my colleague Jesse Sword with me, member of the firm. Thank you for taking the time to hear us again tonight and to continue to consider this application for a major special use permit. If I may, before we get into those 3 pieces of evidence, I kind of would like to just briefly summarize the evidence that Mr. Bassnight and his team presented to you all on March 10th, just to jog our memories and get us.
I would have to seek my lawyers. To me, that seems a little odd to back up from this point.
I think you're in the evidence and y'all have heard the evidence. If she wants to summarize at the end and you also want to leave that, then I think it would be good after the evidence is closed.
No problem.
Okay.
If I may then, before we get into the evidence, I would like to present Mr. Mark Brooks and the traffic engineer, Mr. Colin Kitten, as experts in their fields. Of course, you all heard extensive testimony from them on March 10th. We have submitted their CVs. We would respectfully request the council to recognize them as experts. Mr. Brooks is a professional engineer with over 25 years of experience in civil site engineering, planning and project management, domestic and industrial wastewater treatment, water supply systems, and environmental assessments and permitting. He received a bachelor's degree in engineering from UNC Chapel Hill and a master's degree in environmental engineering from Montana State University. He has provided comprehensive project management and design services for dozens of developments, including a 900-bed student housing project, an elementary school facility, a wastewater treatment system, a large-scale RV park, an auto sales center, and a tiny home community. Based upon his education and experience, we believe he is an expert in the field of civil site development engineering and planning and project development, and we would ask the council to recognize him as such. Similarly, Mr. Kitten is a professional engineer with over 25 years of experience in traffic and transportation engineering. He has either authored or reviewed over 100 traffic impact analysis studies. He has engaged in extensive experience with local traffic engineering, capital project planning, traffic signal warrant studies, signal coordination, traffic signal design, traffic calming, and access management. He has also spent over 20 years in local government. He served as Director of Transportation Engineering for Beaufort County, South Carolina, where he developed the county's traffic capital improvement program, implemented a traffic calming policy and traffic impact analysis ordinance, among other notable traffic engineering projects. We believe that based on his extensive experience and education that he is, that he is a expert in the field of traffic and transportation engineering.
Okay.
So turning to the 3 pieces of evidence that you all requested on March 10th, we'll begin with the traffic impact arising from the Taproot Dairy development. Mr. Colin Kenton reviewed Taproot Dairy's 2019 traffic impact analysis study and determined that 0 trips that will arise from that development are allocated to Jeffress and Cardinal roads, which were the roads at issue on March 10th. The main reason for that is because any traffic leaving that development will use the Butler Bridge Road route to access Ingalls and beyond on Boylston Highway instead of Jeffress Road. And so that is the quickest route, and therefore there are no appreciable traffic impacts with Mills River Townhomes and in conjunction with the Taproot Dairy Development. And of course, Mr. Kitten is here to answer any questions you may have about that piece.
Anybody have any questions about the traffic? Being all over from Butler Ridge on Jeffers from Taproot there. Nothing? Okay.
Okay, the next piece involves the capacity of the Henderson County school system to accommodate any students who might reside in Mills River Townhomes. We have both a letter from Henderson County Superintendent Dr. John Bryant, as well as the principal of Glen C. Marlowe Elementary School. Just to summarize, as you all have copies of these letters, Dr. Bryant expressed that, of course, the Board of Public Education can neither endorse nor oppose proposed residential development, but he did note the need for workforce housing to support school staff and teachers. And of course, the Henderson County Public School System actively works to strategize and accommodate enrollment, whatever enrollment needs it has, and actively studies enrollment trends in the area. Regarding the principal of Marlowe, he stated very briefly and sincerely that he would welcome any additional students residing at Mills River Townhome with open arms and loving hearts. Mr. Bassnight, of course, is happy to answer any additional questions you all may have about school capacity. Okay, moving on then to the final piece of evidence, which concerned the Metropolitan Sewer District's capacity to handle any sewer and gallons per day from the church when they do decide to connect. We have corresponded with Kevin Johnson of MSD, and he stated that there is no issue with sewer capacity for the church. And, you know, they will be able to accommodate their needs at the appropriate time.
So does any of council have any questions pursuant to any of this evidence?
I do not.
James? I will tell public that we're just now seeing these letters for the first time, so I'm sure everybody's going to read through them, make sure we're not missing something. These are not in there. Okay. So we need to,
Oh, yes.
You-
Yes, the applicant tenders them.
you need a motion accepting them? Okay,
No, you can make the decision.
okay.
But the clerk will need copies for the record.
Does council accept these letters and information as evidence in this case?
It's what we asked for.
Is that, okay. Anybody opposed? No? Okay. So you do have a copy at this point?
Yeah, thank you.
At this point, I would just like to give anybody that would like to give any evidence opposing any of this information we just heard a chance to speak. It would have to be evidence. You would have to be sworn in. At this point, we wouldn't accept this public comment. If you've got evidence opposing this, evidence that's been presented tonight, I'd give you this chance to stand up and speak. Hearing none? Okay. So at this point, let's start down our list.
Are you closing the evidence?
Yeah, we'll need to close. Yeah, so we're closed. We'll make a motion to close evidence. Somebody give me that motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Randy. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor?
Uh,
Good. Now we start down here. What we'll be doing is we're gonna read these one at a time. In a motion form and state why it fits. Why it does not fit. So I'm gonna start with, A. Going through, we could see, creeped up, I could have Daniel read them or one of the council could read them. Either one of you.
Let me take a stab at it, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
I'm sorry. For my purposes, which list are you looking
Jeff. I am on,
Special use permit,
yeah,
at? Okay, no,
like.
thank you, Mike. Yeah, I didn't get a copy. Thank you very much. All right,
we're all together that we're on 154.138. And they go to the right-hand side. Correct? What was A?
I'd make a motion to the effect that this council has not heard any evidence indicating that the development would adversely affect health or safety of people residing or working in the neighborhood, nor would be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to property or public improvements in the neighborhood.
So I have a motion. Maybe a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Moving on to B, if someone will take that one.
Mr. Mayor, before we tackle that one, would this be grounds for placing conditions on an approval? And if so, is this appropriate time to deliberate on that?
I think a better time would be at the hearing, we can talk about all the conditions. Any of these rights.
Okay, but identifying a potential effect that would warrant a condition that would be brought up now as we take this underway. So it could still be not affirm that there is no.
Once you have found all the findings that would support and so that you know where you are on that, then you can fix the conditions and talk about them. Because if you don't find all the findings, then you're not going to get to that point.
Would it be allowed for her to address?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know what Councilmember Young has in view, but I know we discussed potential light pollution on March 10th, and Long Branch has agreed to use downlighting. I think I'd have to consult with the team on where they are with that now. They might still be searching for the exact, product that they will use, but they have agreed to use downlighting. And of course, the project will involve a 10-foot evergreen buffer, as well as a privacy fence and or vegetative screen around Mr. Johnson's property. Therefore, so as to minimize any noise and other ill effects on Mr. Johnson.
So under our attorney's suggestion, we'll just move through these and make sure we come to a conclusion, then we'll go back with any conditions we might want to try to oppose.
Understood.
Okay. Somebody want to tackle B for me?
In an effort to not be here all night, I'll take the second one. I move that this council has not heard any evidence indicating the development. I'm sorry, trying just to get my wordsmithing correct here, the concurrence with our ordinance. me start over again. I move that this council has heard evidence that the applicant will develop this project to minimize the effects of noise, glare, dust, solar access, and odor on persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the proposed use and the property and public improvements in the neighborhood.
I've got a motion, a second. Randy, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Steve?
Mr. Mayor, I move that this council has not heard evidence indicating the development will be located or developed in such a manner to seriously worsen traffic congestion so as to endanger public safety.
I've got a motion, have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Apologize, who seconded?
Randy,
Thank you, Randy.
moving on to D.
I move that this council has not heard evidence to the effect that I move that this development will be, or this project will be developed in a manner as to comply with all federal, state, local laws, rules, and regulations.
First by Jeff, a second by Randy, all in favor?
Aye.
E.
I move that this applicant has provided evidence that the development is consistent with any approved official thoroughfare plan.
We got a first. Thank you. Randy, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. This is section 154.180, powers and duties of Mills River Town Council, section 6, A.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, you got one more.
There it is. My bad. Yeah. On the first.
I'll make a motion that we've heard evidence that this development will minimize the environmental impacts on the neighborhood, including groundwater, surface water, wetlands, nature, and threatened species, archaeological sites, historical preservation sites, unique natural areas.
Mayor the first. Second, Randy. All in favor?
Aye.
Now. Now we're back to powers and duties of Mills River Town Council, section 6. We need to start with A.
I move that we've heard evidence that this applicant has evidence of satisfactory ingress and egress to property, proposed structures thereon, with particular reference to automotive, pedestrian safety, and convenience of traffic flow control.
You got a motion? Randy, second. All in favor?
Aye.
B.
I'll move that this council has heard evidence sorry. The wording is a little challenging. I move that this council has heard evidence that the provisions of off-street off-street parking and loading areas were required with particular attention to items in division A, 6A above, and economic noise, glare, and odor effects of the special use on adjoining properties in the area.
We got a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. Moving on to C.
I move that the applicant has provided evidence that they'll satisfactorily provide utilities with reference to locations, availability, and capability.
We got a motion.
Second.
Randy second, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving to D.
If we could, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Sharon, you said that we may attach or discuss conditions at the end of this. right? Okay. Thank
D, buffer.
I'll move that the applicant has provided evidence of arrangements for suitable buffering with reference to type, location, and dimension.
Randy second, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to E.
I move that the applicant has provided evidence for providing playgrounds, open spaces, yards, access ways, and pedestrian ways with reference to location, size, and suitability.
I got a motion.
Second.
Randy second, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to F.
I move that the applicant has provided this council with satisfactory evidence for provisions in building and structures with reference to size, location, and use.
I've got a motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes that part. Which they met all the standards of the special use permit. At this point, we will discuss conditions. If anyone has any, seems like somebody brought something up.
I was just wondering if that can not be open to the idea of more buffering, wider, or more buffering around the property owner that is going to be surrounded by development.
Thank you for your question. I'm Brett Bastine with Long Branch Development. I appreciate you guys inviting us back here. The answer is yes, we've included it in the latest plan around Mr. Johnson's property. We're going to do a privacy fence around that property, so that should provide the appropriate shielding that we discussed last time.
So you make that a condition.
I would like to make that a condition.
You want to say buffering, as shown in their latest plan.
Yes, this is actually the plan that we submitted. You can see it on the screen here. So the privacy fence is shown on that plan. There's a note onto the left-hand side by the cursor. That is what we're committed to provide.
And the privacy fence was not in your original plan.
That is correct. That is an addition since the last time we were here, after hearing your concerns.
We need that in a form of motion.
You want to just
Group them all together, okay. You have anything else on that? Something other writing or just about this?
No, I'm just echoing Mr. Austin's
Okay.
concerns.
What about the possible concern of the farming that's going on below the property? Is there something there to
we put a condition on it to where instead of extremely this open space, the potential to be used as
No, not their property, the property below there between there and the river. And on the other side, it's actively in agriculture. Is there, one question for you, is it a, is there something we would want to put on that says, hey, when you're moving in, agriculture is going on around you?
If I may, I would just like to remind the council that pursuant to the Mills River ordinance, the council cannot attach conditions unless it has substantial, competent, and relevant evidence supporting the condition. I believe also that once the council is certified that the general site standards are satisfied, it also may not attach additional conditions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think what they're getting at is just not necessarily a condition. We're trying to, is just to let you guys know that when they're plowing down there and it's dry, y'all are gonna hear a lot of complaints. We're gonna hear some complaints. It's gonna fill their windows up, their window sills if the wind's right. From living here, that's a lot of acres of land, and if it's dry, after they just get up and it gets real fine dirt, sometimes it comes across 280 from the other side, just so you know. People that live here can tell you all about it. I think that's might be where he was headed with that one more than
Okay.
the other.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it is, and we're here to look out for the neighbors as well, so.
But you'll have to give, I don't know where you're headed with. I don't know what else you're trying to tell us other than the spray,
Yeah, I understand agriculture. I'm saying we can't put a condition on here that I'm just shooting from the hip, that if you live there, you gotta sign a thing saying you understand that your next door neighbor might be spraying, plowing, picking, whatever.
Doesn't that go back to the Mills River Ag example? So really nobody has any dry grounds since Ag's exempt anyway. Is that right? I mean, I know that's right, that Ag is exempt from all our ordinances. I get what you're saying. You just want the people that might move in there to be aware that, something's going on. And it might not be their right. But Aggie, yeah. I don't know. Just,
I would have to seek advice from our lawyer on that. Me personally, you can't safeguard everybody that's over everything in this matter. I don't think we could.
The notice would be asking them, instructing them to give notice that it's actively in agriculture on neighboring property.
One thing I thought about, just been talking about this, Johnson's property. Are they on a well?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Would there be any, could we put a condition on there for some reason their well was to become contaminated with this? Potentially getting them hooked onto water through y'all's system there. I don't foresee that happening. I'm just trying to look after them. They've been there so long. I don't even know if that's a condition I can put on it. I'm just trying to safeguard the neighbor.
what do you mean, like a just pass it?
Potential,
Property line.
yeah, potential tap at the property line.
Water line going through the facilities of public water line. It could potentially, be in the right of way going through the Millburg Town development. I couldn't tell you specifically if the Johnsons could access it via the public right of way. I'll look that a little closer. But it could, there would be nothing even Walgreens could do to stop it, but
I guess what I'm asking for, would it be too much to ask for to either set aside them a easement through there, or for potential, they got well water, they may never need it, or potentially going ahead and when you're running some of the other lines, get something close that they could tap into if needed.
a service connection over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that one building is really close to the property line anyway.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah. That's not for me to say, but it's certainly very doable.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be good neighbors in every sense of the word, so we will work on that from a planning perspective. And when the time comes, happy to help coordinate that. So what we'll do is we'll try to pick the closest building, set aside enough spacing for, internet connection at a later date.
Okay, so, I'd like to make the motion to add it, I don't know what it is.
I just wanted to address Mr. Cantrell's question. As part of the subdivision plat, because there are going to be subdivided lots. The properties surrounding the subject property are in the voluntary ag district program of the county. So there will be a note on the final plat stating that it's within half-mile of property in a protected agricultural district, and that is also meant to protect against these complaints, because the property owner is now on notice legally in a recorded document of Henderson County. One more quick thing, the site plan that applicant submitted for the screening around the Johnson property states complete vegetative screening, meaning like a double buffer and or 6-foot privacy fence. So when you make your condition, can you just be clear about whether it's just a privacy fence or both? Because I'll have to write the permit and be the one enforcing it. I just want to be clear on that.
I would be correct in saying that you're showing both, and you're okay with both. Okay. Anyone got anything else?
Before we leave the water line, and if I'm out of order, you simply call me down, but I was just curious, either Mr. Brooks or Mr. Bassnight, is the water service to the development, is it capable of furnishing more water for future potential development in surrounding tracts or properties, or is it strictly just to meet the needs?
There's a bill water supply. There'll be less allocation and, I've indicated the church, they got plenty of water for the church, so I don't, it's a large, I think there's an exact pipe size coming in there, it's a large pipe. Yeah, it's an 8 inch, I think, coming through there.
Thank you.
Anything else before we move forward?
There's probably good times any, but I think a challenge for this council moving forward after tonight is that by our motions and ascension on those, it's clear that the applicant has met all the criteria that's spelled out in our ordinance, but we've got this comprehensive plan that was adopted less than a year ago, and there's disagreement between our ordinance and the comprehensive plan, and that's the battle that I personally have had to wage for this particular decision, is that the two aren't in agreement, but for the purposes of this evidentiary hearing that we just closed, or we're going to close, that really is not a consideration. So the challenge for us is to, I think the observers spoken clearly in their comprehensive plan with 2 years of input and stakeholder meetings, and like I said, that ink's hardly dry on it. So I think this is a better reading of what people in Observer want, and our ordinance is outdated, and we need to put these two in line. I just wanted to offer that up. just some of the personal the challenges I've had with hearing this evidence, knowing what is in the comprehensive plan and all.
So at this point, would someone make us a motion, and we'll probably have to amend it a time or two. Unless somebody puts it all together the first go around.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve SUP 22-01 major special use permit, Jefferson Road Townhomes, with conditions. With two conditions. One is for a buffer between the development and the Johnson property. The buffer to include double row evergreen of at least 10 feet wide and 6-foot privacy fence. Second condition is to have a water service available for the Johnsons to tap on. Their property.
Okay. All right, so I've got a motion. I need a second. All right, I need a second. All in favor?
I'll discuss it.
Okay, so y'all, you want to discuss? Anybody else?
It's a big deal, so I just want to be sure.
Right. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what's that? The comprehensive plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? James?
No.
No? Okay. So we got 4 to 1. And it still passes? Okay. Thank y'all. Appreciate you having me down. Just help us look after our neighboring citizens over there and everybody be happy. We need a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Randy first, second.
Second.
Jeff, give me a second, all in favor?
Thank you. Be safe.
Thanks, Sharon.
Good luck with your mom.
Thank you. That's what I.
Record now, isn't it?
Okay, moving on to H, we made the resolution on the airport. Upgrade of Westbrook Road down to a regular agenda. Same ask for that to be moved down. I'll let her lead us off with that one.
We have received 3 letters and a phone call that need to be put into, I guess, public record. And we can do that and then discuss do you want to get Daniel Marino?
I'll read 'em.
Okay.
Okay, so the first letter we have is from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Greetings. With respect to the proposed resolution by the town of Mills River, I would like to voice some concerns to the proposed upgrades of Westfelt Road to industrial standards pursuant to the new airport's control tower and commercial air cargo site. We are very concerned about the negative impact with the increased traffic at the roundabout in front of our entrance to Sierra Nevada, which we feel will impact both visitors to our tap room and restaurant and commercial operations. We are also troubled by what an expansion will do to the beautiful entrance to Mills River, which Ferncliff Park in Sierra Nevada now provides. We would respectfully request that you and NCDOT investigate alternative routes from the airport property on the 280. For instance, utilizing the southern end of the airport directly across from Broadmoor entrance on the 280, and avoid adding what is proposed to be a significant additional traffic through the roundabout. Sincerely, Ken Grossman, Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, Wild River. The next one we have from the Riveter. To the Town Council of Mills River, please share with each council member. The Riveter is writing to you about the proposed upgrade to Westfelt Road to industrial standard. We are quite worried about the increased traffic at the Ferncliff roundabout in front of our business because it will impact our customers and our bottom line. We also think it is extremely important for Mills River to preserve the existing stream, wetlands, and woods that exist in the 5-acre buffer between Ferncliff Industrial Park and the airport. It is this woodland beauty, agricultural character of the park's entrance, and the mitigation of typical industrial park traffic that attracted us to this location for our business. The visual separation from the airport and nearby industrial operations are important to our patrons and their connection to this area, and thus to our business. Additionally, I have been involved in the town of Mills River's work on the Go Mills River project to create more safe corridors for pedestrians, walkable, rideable pathways, and connectivity between the key areas that tourists and locals patronize. This proposed road modification and use would increase cargo traffic, increase the risk to pedestrians/patrons, and contradict the efforts that the town is stating are being prioritized for future growth planning. We would respectfully request that the North Carolina DOT and the airport use an alternate route, perhaps on the land the airport already owns. We appreciate your consideration on this important issue. Thank you very much for your time. Best, Elizabeth Jackson, Founder, General Manager. The third letter we have is addressed to Mayor Gauntz. Dear Mayor Gauntz, GF Linamar has recently learned about NCDOT's plan to improve Westfelt Road to provide further access to the Asheville Airport. Please note that the old Westfelt Road is partially located on GF Linamar property that was purchased in 2016. That portion of Ferncliff Park was sold with restrictions against future development due to the existing streams and wetlands and to preserve the existing vegetation as a buffer for the park from the airport. In addition to the land restrictions, GF Linamar has concerns about the amount of traffic that could be added to the roundabout at Ferncliff Park and to Ferncliff Park Drive. We support the airport and their plans to construct a new control tower. However, we hope NCDOT and the airport will consider alternate access plans that would direct future traffic away from Ferncliff Drive. Thank you for the town's consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Dr. Michael Hageman, President, GF Linamar. Those are all the letters we have. I have spoken to an individual with Suncap Properties, the folks constructing the project at the end of the road out there. They are also share the concerns about the traffic in the circle and requested that the DOT hold off on making any decisions until a traffic study is completed. I just wanted to share that information with you.
Okay, so, you need a break? Okay, go ahead. Okay, we're back from break. Is there anything? Okay, as I hear the verbiage coming out of these letters, as the mayor of Mills River, it brings big concern to me that, you know, I was on council back when Westbelt Road was developed as an industrial park. The road was upgraded from NC 280 to the roundabout for all this traffic that they're talking about. And some of them are even going to the fact to say to bring Westbelt Road up to industrial standards. Well, Michael, is this not all zoned industrial over
It is.
there? Well, I get the impression that they're trying to turn it into more like general business than industrial. They're worried about traffic and all, but they bought this knowing it was zoned industrial. And asked for the incentives that they got from us and the county as an industrial atmosphere. Am I missing something here? I just feel like that these standards that the DOT has put on this and the access in and out there couldn't be detrimental to somebody that knew when they went in there that was buying an industrial area. Imagine if Linamar come and Sierra Nevada was opposed to it the same way. I mean, that's where I have to look at this. It never got brought up that I know of. I wasn't on council, but each one of those businesses have several trucks a day coming out there. How many is the airport going to have coming out there? I don't know. But I just feel like that it's an industrial zone area in Mills River. I don't know how else they want us to treat it other than industrial. Seems like they're wanting us to change it to general business or something, you know, but not do it in a zoning way. By not upgrading this road going in there.
Well, I would offer that the Asheville Airport is not a tenant or landowner of the industrial park. It's a separate animal. Joined it, yes. I was there before Ferncliff was ever developed, but nonetheless, you know, I wouldn't think that the property owners of Ferncliff would want all the airport traffic from the terminals and baggage claim and long-term parking to go through that roundabout either. I mean, that's airport traffic that's handled by the airport. The current, you know, because in addition to the 3 letters and then Suncap, who spoke with the town manager, you know, I talked to Vaughn Fitzgerald on the telephone, whose family apparently asked for voluntary annexation and developed Ferncliff and still have, I guess, undeveloped property in there on the market. But there's site restrictions developing in there. There's, you know, clearing limits and build upon limits, and I don't think from speaking and from these letters, the tenants, the property owners, they take pride in where they've set up their businesses, the investments they've made, and their industrial park is a lot different than the conventional ones, even from Broadpoint, which is almost a neighbor to them. So I don't think they're trying to do anything other than what they've been doing, which is they have a exceptional, when I say exceptional means that, you know, they've gone to extra efforts to maintain buffers and trees and beautification you normally don't see in industrial parks. And so but it's basically the airport's just trying to come across them, they're trying to flip the corner. And but in doing so, they're actually going to take land from GF terminal and put this road in, and then it's going to dump it on that traffic circle. So obviously, I agree. I think we do that. You know, we need to pump the brakes on this. We now have a long-standing history as a town always supporting economic development when it benefits the residents in Mills River. But in this case, when the property owners that would be most affected, those that have joined the proposed road improvements, when they come out in strong, unambiguous terms that they're against it, it makes me take pause. Now, if there's a greater good to be done here by letting the airport come through there and the air cargo traffic come through there, is going to benefit the other 7,000 plus residents of Mills River, then I'm willing to hear the argument. Right now, we have a resolution, and I've got phone calls, discussions, and letters from the adjoining landowners that have made big investments in this town. And so I have to hear those, and for that reason, I'm not ready to support the resolution supporting that. or to the part of Ferncliff. They're just trying to come through Ferncliff with their air traffic control and their air cargo.
When I first saw this on the consent agenda last time, what caught my attention was, does the Asheville Airport contribute anything to Mills River?
To the citizens of Mills River,
Yeah,
if you're gonna fly out of here, you gotta go through, you either go to Greenville or fly to Asheville or Charlotte.
right. But as far as contributing anything to Mills River, you know, they don't pay taxes or anything here. And the adjoining properties, GF Linamar does pay taxes here. And I have not been over there personally spoke with them, but I have been over there and seen the establishments. And I do know that they have gone to great lengths to have a beautification committee. They maintain the properties, the trees, even the rainwater off the parking lots is filtered. And I think before anything is done to properties next to them, I think they should be the ones in consideration of it. Instead of it coming through here and them having no say in it.
I guess I'm looking at this and maybe we'll simple, but Daniel, the airport owns property in the town of Mills River,
That's correct.
7.5 acres, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right. I don't know off the top of my head.
And in January, I think it was, the Board of Adjustments heard a case and they gave the variance to the airport to
Mhm.
build new control tower.
That's right.
And this West Hill Road is a state maintained road.
That's right.
And so they're only wanting to upgrade a road that the state already owns. Rusty's sitting back there, maybe.
Yes,
I'm gonna put him on the spot here.
that's correct. The airport is,
But, so the way I look at it, if the DOT did not think that the roundabout and Old Airport Road couldn't handle the traffic, I doubt very seriously if they would go in well to upgrade the road. Am I wrong?
That's correct.
So as far as the airport goes, the airport is not in the town of Mills River, other than the 7.5 acres. That's for new control towers.
Mhm. That's correct.
And then you have a state maintained road that dead ends into airport property.
Right.
That they're only wanting to upgrade. I don't see a problem.
Why didn't the airport or DOT go to the adjacent property owners instead of coming to us? I mean, usually if somebody's gonna put a road in, they contact the property owners rather than going to the town, don't they? Or do they?
Can we get Rusty up here and let's see what we're talking right away. Such as
Just for clarification purposes, at this point, there is not a plan sheet showing the proposed improvements to Westbelt Road. This is a conceptual idea. The reason the town was requested to provide a resolution was so that we can request the economic development funds out of it. If those funds come through, then it will get to the planning stage, then the traffic studies will be done. We met, let's see, that's Thursday, we met Monday or Tuesday with two of the local people at GF Linamar and showed them what we were looking at, and they didn't have a problem with the footprint on the existing road being the way it is. There would be 8, 9 trees on the left side of the road that would fall in the right of way or right on the line. Most of the width is already there for construction. And with what the airport has provided us as far as potential cargo, if they get that terminal funded, it's not gonna be as much traffic as Suncap's putting through that roundabout now with all the dirt there moving out. But right now, it's just conceptual. And a lot of that will depend on whether or not we actually can get funded with economic development funds. Gotcha. Can I help with anything else here? Y'all are thinking?
Well, I didn't know what I saw here was it said the airport was proposing to invest up to $110 million and provide between, so was that for the road?
No, that is their infrastructure.
And that's their infrastructure inside their 7.5 acre.
Okay. And you said you did speak with GF Lamar and they didn't have a problem?
We met on site with their local people this
Wow.
week, and they didn't see an issue with it. They were gonna take it up the ladder to the people of corporate.
Okay, well, if they don't have a problem with it, then why did we get these letters?
We built Ferncliff Force here in the bottom.
Exactly.
We did it with our forces.
Yeah.
I set stakes for that road.
Yeah.
The 2 vacant lots at the end of the extension that we built, they potentially could be impacted by whether or not they get the cargo terminal. Who's to say? That would definitely be something that the economic development people would look at. Yeah, I don't have an opinion one way or the other to give y'all. I can tell you from what I've seen from a traffic standpoint, if we upgrade our existing road, I don't see it having a negative impact on that roundabout. I've been down there quite a bit lately because we've had a lot of complaints about the traffic from Suncap. And I don't have any idea how many trucks a day they're sending through that roundabout. It is a bunch.
Well, I don't have anything against theirs, or, you know, they don't do anything to or against me. I know that we did vote to approve the tower that they were looking to build. It was back in January. And, you know, what I was looking at was the impact going next to GF Limar and the properties through there, because I know they have beautification committees. But if they don't have a problem with it, then
Well, with what we've been approached about, the view from Westfeld looking towards Linamar, you're still gonna be looking through that same patch of woods. I mean, it's,
Could you possibly pull that back up? So if have you seen this picture? You might can see he's got the cursor on it right there where it just jumps. Well, the roundabout is below that. So they're just on that for just a second and then it'll veer off. And I guess that's still gonna be basically the same in conceptual drawings.
it will, the roundabout in front of Sierra Nevada wouldn't change. What I would perceive changing would be a slight realignment with Westfeld to Ferncliff, just to square it up a little bit.
Right.
And most of that would come off the airport property.
Yeah.
The roundabout the airport has requested will be at the top of the hill inside existing airport property.
And there is a little stream down Linomar's property, so.
It's by their deed, that brick spring house, it's on that stream. The only impact that we would have on that stream is we would change out that 36 or 42 inch pipe going under Westfield.
Looking at it into streams anymore, than anybody else wants to get into streams.
No.
Anything else? Good?
I don't think so. Mr.
Thank you for standing there.
I'll show my ignorance by asking, when did we wield so much power that we could tell DOT what they can do or the airport what they can? I thought it was just a resolution.
It's all it is a resolution.
And when there's property owners, taxpayers in Mills River that says it's a detriment, I'm not gonna second guess them. I mean, they're telling me this and they put it in writing, so it's kind of like, I've got to have rationale about why I just dismiss their concerns. And it's not somebody way over in Boylston that just, against everything. It's, adjacent landowners. And that's why I can't, I thought, well, if we don't pass a resolution, DOT, they pretty much do what they want to do. And they don't take orders from us last time I checked. So I didn't know that this was, that this is going to end, $1 billion worth of development in northern Henderson County simply because we didn't provide a resolution for Westfield Road. But that's what I'm hearing, is that this resolution, is tied to.
To me, we did resolutions, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, but even for a bunch of these other amenities for West Bell Industrial Park over the years. The upgrades from 280 to the roundabout, and several others to get it to that point. Well, like I told Sandra the other night, you're going to see many of these sitting on council. It's more of a blessing than it is anything else. I see that we've got some concerns. I'm gonna ask you, Jeff, so on that rest of that development in there. So if they come and plead the same thing, that it would be detriment, they wouldn't like, it would be turning down economic development money to put something else back there. If we're gonna listen to
I think they're marketing that property for industrial development, because that's what it's all about.
but if they come to us and it's somebody's got a big traffic load or wants to clear the whole lot, and take most of the trees down that they can.
Well, I don't think saying they're any of our business, they wouldn't come to us and complain, complaining, but we had no say in it. They would come for us a resolution about, we want to clear all our property and burn it.
Well, I'm talking about from an economic development money standpoint. Because they could come and say, hey, we don't support you tying economic development funds to, because it's gonna put more traffic flow, it's gonna beautify our, I just don't want this to start a revolving door of,
Well, what they, and again, I'm speculating on, I'm just trying to read between the lines. More than one letter comes back around and says the airport has options. So I think they're at the minimum asking for the airport to explore options rather than just take the quickest, shortest way out of there. And, whether that's been done or not, I don't know. But again, I can't discount what these folks are telling me. And as a representative of all of Mills River, and I don't represent the airport authority, I have to give these credence. And again, I thought we're discussing a resolution. We're not
I'm
taking
just-
action on whether this road happens or not. That's up to DOT and the airport about the road, but it's,
Rusty, would this resolution be tied into any of that economic development grant money? Years ago, we had to pass these as a stepping stone for y'all to be able to get your money in place to move forward.
It makes it a lot easier with that initial request. It's not a hard firm, yes, we have to have the resolution. It just makes, it greases the skids.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, since he's had conversations with people on site and they didn't have a problem with it, would you want to recess this and let them get a letter of support?
At this point with it, I would just like a motion to approve this resolution or to not approve this resolution. That's what I'd like to see tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution for the upgrade of West Bell Road.
I'll need a second.
We can still discuss, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'll discuss with conditions, and I would like to discuss.
Okay.
Was that a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's discuss it and see where you're at with it.
What if we approve signing this with the condition of attaching the letters with it?
I mean, I think that's I don't know how resolutions roll on down the road, if they can be attached to it or not. I think it's just our blessing.
I,
It's in the public record right now.
yeah, it's in the public record. I mean, I've not seen attachments to a resolution, but that doesn't mean that you can't do that if you want to. It might be just as easy to, part of your vote, if you decide to take one, would be to direct staff to forward the letters that we received from those property owners to the state when we send the resolution. But again, that's entirely up to the board.
Any other discussion?
Are we voting on with it, with Randy's, or the added letters?
If Randy would have to amend his motion to
So,
attach letters or.
I hate to drag this out. Attach the letters to go to where? The local DOT office or economics, where you're trying to get the money from? Rest of the,
I pull copies of letters off the agenda. I've already got them in the file.
I mean, it's public record. There's nowhere around it at this point.
I'm went round and round about this, and it seems like to me, it's a road that's already there, and we're just trying to widen it a little bit. And we are not saying yes, we are just saying you can go source the funding, and then you can take it up with. That's how I'm reading this. To me, this seems like this is a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
And I'd be open to table it until we had support letters from adjoining landowners. I just can't discount what's been provided to this town and concerned about it.
But is it the one landowner is G at Linamar, and then the other landowner is the airport?
Yeah, but still you have to take into account the river and Sierra Nevada and the Fitzgerald that's still on property in front of it. They're all.
with due respect, Jeff, they don't own the roundabout, they don't own the road. That's the state's
Right.
responsibility.
I mean, it's just a resolution is giving our endorsement to it, and normally that's the case we would go, but if you have people that directly affected by it that have real reservations, it gives me reservation that, I'm not saying the road shouldn't be, that's where it'll end up being, but again, it's for us to give a glowing endorsement, which means we do the resolution, that's what it's doing. And I said, well, I'm not saying never on resolution, I'm saying I don't know that it's appropriate to do it this time, given what information's been given to us. And there's an absence of support, other than the airport wants this, and obviously DOT wants to expedite it because it's on their list of things to do. Again, I'm not representing DOT nor the airport authority. It's the folks in Missouri that said we have problems with this. So I'm not saying, I'm not here tonight to say we need to come out against it. But I don't think we need to give a glowing endorsement in the way of a resolution, given what's before us. But again, that's where I'm coming from.
I don't think it's a glowing endorsement, but he did say that he noted the letters. Is that a fair? It is public that there is reservation.
So I don't know, the resolution doesn't talk about any misgivings or, you can attach them to the back and who knows where
Sure.
they go, but I'm just saying that we when we take action in the form of resolution, I'm speaking on this body, and what's in there, I don't agree with for the simple fact that it's not all beer and Skittles from these folks that have to deal with it, so. But that's just where I'm coming from on it.
Well, we've got a first and a second. I guess the question is, are we attaching the letters to our resolution, or are we gonna let them stand with NC's DOT file and our public record?
I'm okay with them staying in public record. If that's okay with James.
I mean, my question was answered, so.
I've got a first, I've got a second. Any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none. All in favor?
I'm sorry, I don't think I caught that. Who voted how?
I voted for.
And then I heard a no.
I didn't know if the mayor was gonna call for no's or not.
I was, I'm just
Okay,
waiting.
well,
James is.
I'm pondering, if it's already.
Okay. Sorry. I thought it was me not hearing it.
This just seems like this is.
All opposed?
no.
No.
You don't want to guess
I just voted, yeah, no, I'm not changing my vote.
Okay, no problem. All right, so that got knocked down, so, we can help you on anything else, the rest of us know. We'll try again. Yeah. Our next motion will be to, move forward with this. The rest of our agenda, staff reports. Financial director and town clerk, all crooked up. Can you talk to us about anything?
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, having nothing, parks director.
Just by earlier, we were projects moving along, really all that's left is cleanup. If we could just get a dry enough day that we can get in there and finish our cleanup. So I'm hopeful by the end of next week that we can get everything sorted out and everything back open. And then just to know that tomorrow is the blood drive here at Town Hall, 11 to 4, so then it's film, donate blood, that would be helpful.
Zone administrator.
No real update. Permit applications, development inquiries, et cetera, continue to be strong and high. So.
Awesome. Okay, town manager.
No further updates. Thank you, sir.
All right, your council comments.
I'll let Nancy come.
I'll pass.
You passed.
I would like to look at the ordinances that we just did today relatively quickly, because there are already other pieces of property that are advertising this. And I think we need to come to a clear consensus quickly.
So let me just throw this out there. I don't know exactly what it is. Have we got an option for a moratorium on special use permits, cluster developments, anything like that? Will we get us some time to go through this stuff? Because we're hearing a lot of long-term family people that's getting captured by these farms selling out, and they're in the middle.
I believe to impose a development moratorium, you have to actually hold a public hearing on that.
But that would probably be quicker than a rewrite, wouldn't it? I mean, wouldn't it
Yeah,
give
I
us
mean-
time for that rewrite?
I mean, I've got 3 text amendments on my plate right now, so an additional one. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, it's gonna take time.
Absolutely.
The answer to your question, Mr. Mayor, is yes, we could institute a moratorium. And the only difference between doing it for 30 days or longer is the procedure that's required to do it. And I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I can get that to council.
Let's get that rounded up for us, so that everybody consistent with what we need to do. Just
Yes, I was curious, do we have any pending applications that would basically have vested rights if the moratorium is imposed on these special use multifamily development?
Not for a major special use permit. So again, there's the minor special use permits, which the Board of Adjustment hears, and then the major, which encompasses multifamily.
April 14th.
There's no application for either. currently.
Yeah. Bring back criteria.
So if staff would just get us that and email us any information you can find, and we'll try to, if it's got to go to the planning board, we'll have to send it to them in an open meeting, or maybe not.
I don't think it does.
Okay,
The moratorium itself does not have to go to the planning board, just the ordinance changes would.
okay. But our advertisement might be longer than 20.
It depends upon the length of the moratorium. There's two statutory standards, one for, I believe, a 30-day moratorium, and anything over 30 days. And I just don't recall off the top of my head what those advertisement standards are. But we
Michael,
can,
it would be fair to say it's real, definitely need more 30 days, correct, from after the public hearing.
Oh, for me to include the changes to the ordinance? Yes.
Okay. So just focus on the long term.
Okay.
Anything else? I would, advise council to look through the ordinance book and see if there's anything else. That one's been in place for a long time.
It's since inception.
Mhm.
And I ain't saying it's, we just never really had a big run at that, so
Yes, but it seems like we could.
it could.
I was on the planning board at the time that and many other ordinances were adopted, but my thinking or recollection, and maybe inaccurate, but that was carryover language. We were using other ordinances from other municipalities and trying to tailor them for us. And then even though the planning board was aware of what was in it, because sewer and water weren't really readily available anywhere in Mills River,
It was controlled.
it was really not a concern. So it just seemed good to have it in there, sort of a placeholder, and was not really thinking of what it would look like on landscape. And so I think it's just a carryover that it's just sort of been under the radar, but now that the sewer is available to a portion of the town, we've got developers like the one that came before us.
And back in the day, we had to, when Mill River land was always expensive. So we thought if we could quarter acre houses, 4 per acre, and still set aside some green space, it might make it more affordable. That was a discussion at one point, but, then when you add sewer and water to an area, it raises the value of land, which washes that inexpensiveness away from
And I don't have so much heartburn about the clustering of single family, because the overall density remains the same. One house per acre, but this one allows up to 4 per acre, which is like a 300, nearly 300% increase over what we normally allow.
it. Exactly.
And we had everybody come through and say, well, this isn't Mills River, this is not Mills River. And then we look at the comprehensive plan, that's really, yes, there's supposed to be some options, but maybe not that intense. So I think clustering is not bad on the surface, especially if it keeps your overall density, because it does preserve open space. But we heard loud and clear from folks about this is not what they envision rural character in Mills River being. So I think it'd be wise for us to revisit it.
Okay. Anything else? Any other council comments? Okay. Make a motion to adjourn, someone? I'll move. Second, Andy, second. James, second. All